February of 2003, and that's when there was a plane shot down by the FARC, the terrorist organization down there, and it had some SRS folks on it working out of the embassy, and the FARC came up. They got the down plane. They shot the pilot. I think they kept one. Might be getting it kind of wrong, but I think they kept one Colombian alive, and they killed one. And then there's 3 Americans that were on that flight, and they kidnapped them. And they kidnapped them for years and years and years and years and years. I think it's a little over 5 years total time. They were repatriated in 2008. So we slowly started up a mission and kind of started to get things moving for Operation Willing Spirit. And I can talk about it now because their hostages have been repatriated and the mission is no longer classified. So what we were working to do is just try to get proof of life. We ended up getting to slightly modified the mission to where we could actually go, look, well, let's go see if they were there. Let's go see. Hey, they said they're moving them down these rivers. Let's see. Can you move? Hey, we're Green Berets. Let's go figure this out. Let's go fly out there and see if you can move hostages through here. Let's confirm or deny all this crap that's out there. And so we started really getting aggressive like that. And then ultimately, the Colombians they saved that mission. They created a fake Doctors Without Borders kind of thing. And they were going to help the FARC move the hostages, which also included Ingrid Betancourt, a French presidential candidate. And they were going to help move them. And they needed all these different things, but it was a total fake organization. And anyway, long story short, they landed the helicopter.
All right, so we're joined in studio with Kevin Key. And so, Kevin, thank you so much for coming all this way.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Really looking forward to diving into some of your background. As I understand it, you came into the Army, though, into the National Guard first. What made you want to go into the National Guard initially?
Well, so my recruiter lied to me. I didn't even know there was such a thing as annual training, the 2 weeks that you do. And I was really thinking, interestingly, 2 years before I went into the National Guard and rose my right hand, I had taken an ROTC map reading class, and because I heard it was an easy A, and it was fun. We wandered around, and I ended up finagling my way into airborne school pretty much as a civilian. The only thing I had done as a cadet was take that map reading class, and I got there and I didn't know how to stand at attention. It was a big wreck, but I ended up being able to successfully earn my wage and pass. And I thought, well, then I came back and my school only had 2 airborne slots, and congratulations, great, now you're doing ROTC. I said, no, but thank you. That was really fun. And so I just kind of walked away, but it planted the seed. And so I started really debating what I wanted to do. I was teaching skiing and sort of going to school. I was thinking about being a lawyer, and I didn't know if I really wanted to solve other people's problems because I didn't even like solving mine. And I thought, what, that military thing was kind of cool. That was kind of fun. So 2 years later, I went down and like real quick, just one afternoon, I went down, raised my right hand. Next day I know I'm in the National Guard and I'm an E3.
Yes. Well, I want to back up here for a second because you were saying that you went to airborne school while in ROTC, but you hadn't signed for a commission.
Nope. We won't talk about the school.
So you're taking like an airborne slot away from somebody and you may not even go into the Army.
Yep, I was a ponytail wearing ski bum.
No way.
Totally. And what actually happened, it was kind of a funny story. So they got all the pictures all over the walls, or all the airborne aerosol, all this Ranger. Ooh, that stuff looks cool. And then they're trying to recruit you in to join the ROTC program, as you would expect. And it was a small program at the University of Nevada. And then I was talking, I think it was an E7 was the instructor, maybe not. And I said, hey, I want to go jump out of planes. How do you do that? He's like, well, come to this event. We're going to march around. We're going to do this. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Maybe I will. And then they had this, they had a APFT, Army Physical Fitness Test. And so, well, if I go, or if I win, will you send me to jump out of airplanes? And it's ha. We'll see how you do, but there isn't a winner. Well, what if I get the highest score? Well, I got the highest score. And the battalion commander came over, and he said, later to be referred to as PMS, Professor of Military Science, but they called him battalion commander back in the 90s. And he came over and he said, hey, good job. Where'd you come from? And I go, well, Kevin Key, thank you. I don't even think I said sir. I didn't know what I was doing. And he said, well, why are you here? Well, he said if I showed up here and I won this, that you'd send me to airborne school. And he's like, come here. And I realized right then, I'm like, uh-oh. I'm going to go ahead and be honest as I can. If I am questioned, I'm going to answer totally honestly, but I'm also going to shut my mouth, and maybe I'll get to go jump out of airplanes. I shut my mouth, and I got to go jump out of airplanes.
Nice.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Ponytail?
Well, I was bad. I cut my hair maybe this short. And I go, what are you, some kind of female? This is in the night.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
My school, I didn't know how to wear a uniform. I had the wolf pack is UNR, and they put it on this shoulder. So we're like, what combat patch is that? I've been a combat.
Oh my gosh.
I was as fucked up as I want to be.
Nice.
I was running into people. They called me Kiwi Key because I didn't know how to shine my boots right, and it got all over my uniform. And
I forgot that they shine boots.
I was a wreck. I was a wreck, but I finished.
This was during the summer, so you probably went through with like West Pointers and everything else at that time frame. Oh my God, what a freaking mess that had to be.
You know, some dude was just hoping for a walk-in slot, and then like Kiwi Key comes in. That's awesome.
That man, I came to find opportunities.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? It worked because it planted the seed.
Absolutely.
And I left, and I'm all okay, whatever the Army stuff. But then 2 years later, I'm like, you know what? I think I do want to do this. So rose my right hand, and then I ended up getting back involved with ROTC. Got a commission later and went active duty.
We'll get into that. So when you went to the National Guard, what was the MOS that you had signed up for?
19 Delta, but I never went to. I never went to AIT. When people say, "Hey, were you a prior service?" I always say kinda, because I didn't do a full 2 years to get the O1E. I never went to AIT. I just kind of was in the National Guard and then kind of became a cadet. And I did my drill. We were part of the 11th ACR, which was out of Fort Irwin at the time, and we were the part of the Op 4 squadron, and it was Nevada National Guard, and we would fly down to Bicycle Lake and play Op 4 games, and it was fun. It was totally fun. We had Bird'em nose kits, Humvees. We'd be driving around doing desert stuff, and
those cool ass Viz mods that they used to throw on.
Yeah,
yep.
That's right.
Good time.
Sergeant Major. How did you end up transitioning then to active duty? What was the path?
Well, then I later joined ROTC. It was shortly after I had enlisted, and then they had a program called simultaneous membership program.
Yeah.
So I became like a third lieutenant.
Yeah.
Right. So you got paid as an E5. I think, right?
That's correct.
I love that.
Yeah.
Third lieutenant.
That's correct.
That's great.
So you were basically lieutenant in grooming, I think.
Yeah, and my lieutenant didn't show up too much, so I got to be the lieutenant a lot, and it was I had a darn good time doing that National Guard stuff. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And so then when you come on active duty, what was your first assignment?
I went to the 25th ID. I was there for about 7 months. Didn't really like it. I remember I went right after OBC. I went to Ranger School, then I went to the 25th ID, and I remember our squads were like 5 people, and we would be doing training exercises where we're supposed to be setting up sector states and doing a patrol base and all this and that. But I'm looking at I-5, and the guidance is just pretend. And it was like, well, this is garbage. Like I was going to get out. I wasn't really too excited about the military, and I'm like, I don't know about this, but there's that 2nd Ranger Battalion down the street, because this was at Fort Lewis at the time, in the 1st Brigade of 25th ID, and so I ended up going to rope, and then went to the Ranger Regiment, and 6 weeks later I'm in Jordan, and then the rest is history. And then it was on.
Wow. So let's go back. So you came in 7 months before you had then applied for second bat?
I did about 7 months in the 25th.
I thought you had to at least be a first lieutenant.
You do, but after Ranger School and OBC, I was right off the cut. In fact, I went to rope, I think, as a 2nd lieutenant, but then was promoted to 1st lieutenant before I ever signed into battalion. But instantly, a guy named Doug Taylor, he signed in as a brand new 2nd lieutenant on the same day that I did. Great guy, but he was a unique story where he was in 2nd Ranger Battalion as enlisted, then went to RRD, then went to 3rd Group, then it was in Panama, and then he was in 3rd Group, and during the first Iraq War, and then he was in Delta, and he was in Delta for a whole bunch of other stuff, and so they let him come in as a
sounds like
he had a 4187 that just said, "Hey, here."
They kind of welcomed him.
Yeah, they knew his path in the future. Oh my God,
that's like Kevin.
Yeah, that's K Hum.
Yeah, that was our old commander, Captain Kevin Humphreys. He was side platoon sergeant in 3rd Bat and did all this stuff. And he lived, born and raised at Benning. And then he went to OCS, 2nd lieutenant, back to the Bat. They finally kicked him out, but he never left Benning.
Yeah.
Oh, he went back to 3rd Bat?
Yeah, he went back to 3rd Bat and was hanging out.
Yeah.
And then they pushed him over to 3rd Brigade, 3rd ID.
As a captain.
Yeah, he did all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
But he never left Benning.
Well, that was, there's quite a few guys that actually did that. So they did the whole thing where they went through, some of them went OCS, and then they went to a Ranger School or Airborne School, and then they go to the advanced course, and then but by the time they're done with the whole thing, they're already like 4 or 6 years in, and then they transfer them up to 3rd ID or something at that time frame, and
that's what he did.
Yeah,
wow, lucky guy to get there.
And then he was a ABOLIC instructor, or no, Captain's Career Course instructor.
Yeah.
So he did Captain's Career Course here, and then he became an instructor here.
RTBs.
He did ILE in Alabama, so he never really had to leave.
Yeah, that was Don Fox. I think he spent 30 years in, and I swear 22 of it at least was. Yeah,
that was never that lucky.
Yeah.
So you, after 2nd Bat, what did you end up doing?
Well, I got a little lucky there too. I got, normally as an O, when you go into the Ranger Regiment, you're going to be staying about 18 months, and so I got there in summer of 2000, and then a little over a year later, we're going to war, and then we're going to war again, and then so I had put in my SF packet, but I don't think you'd be able to do this today. But then I thought, there's something on the horizon, and this is the unit I'm assigned to, and can I go later? So I ended up staying in 2nd Ranger Battalion for about 4 years, which was great. And then it really helped me because it ate up all my staff time as a captain. So I didn't have to do a lot of staff. Yeah, it worked out real well.
Nice.
Yeah, so you end up then taking out of command and going staff time in 2nd Bat.
No, I was doing my lieutenant time, but I stayed as a captain. And I ended up when I first went to Afghanistan, I ended up working a lot with the FBI, and they were kind of bored, and they were kind of just working on, hey, we need to do this sensitive side exploit training and all this stuff. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And I kind of just got into them. And I was a battle captain, so I was bored, and so I got all into working with them, and I got all these skill sets. And then when we went on the invasion for Iraq, I now have all this SSE training. And so I got put on special detail and task and got to lead all these SSE teams around, and it was
sweet,
super cool.
Yeah. So after you did that, you put it in your packet and you got accepted. How long then from the time that you got accepted before you actually got the Q course date?
I think I got it pretty. Let's see. I went to selection in November of 03. I remember I was there for Thanksgiving, and then I started the Q course. I started the infantry captain's course in, I think, March of 04. And then I went directly from there into the Q course.
So you had to come back to 2nd Bat then?
Yeah, I did.
How did they feel about that?
They were pretty good. I had really stuck it. I'd kind of put my career out there a little bit because, hey, I stayed there for about 2.5 years as a captain, and so that can screw you up. And I think they kind of appreciated that.
Yeah. So they were cool then with you going to, well, enlisted guys, I think, are at that time frame, I'm talking more, I think it's a little bit different now, but at least at that time frame, if you were an enlisted guy and you end up saying, hey, I want to go SF or I want to go Delta or something like that, it was kind of frowned upon.
Yeah, they it was frowned upon a little for me too, but at the end of the day, I always believe in supporting good people to do whatever it is these good people want to do. And if it's get out of the Army, support them to get out. And I think that goes and pays dividends down the road. And I think I had some mentors that were like that as well. And this is what I want to do. And I didn't get a lot of flack.
Yeah.
And I remained friends with a lot of the senior officers and other officers throughout my career.
So when you went through Q course, what was the steps that you had to go through?
So we showed up, and I think it started with like SUT, which is kind of like a JV Ranger School kind of thing, and small unit tactics. And then I think then they kind of had the Alpha Committee, which is for the officers. Each year, all the MOSs kind of have their own numeric designator, and they're kind of through the Q course. You have like the Bravos are with the Bravos, Charlies with the Charlies, Alphas with the Alphas, and you go through your little specific parts. So I was started with, I think, small unit tactics, and then we went into the Alpha course, and then I want to say it was language school, which was like 6 months, and then we had some different things that we would come and do. SRDA stuff, and then I think it culminated then at that time with Robin Sage, but then you weren't really SF qualified until you completed SEER and some other stuff.
Because they've kind of jumbled all that up since then.
Yeah, I never served in SWIC, which I would knock on wood, but I'm out now, so I'm not even going to worry about it. They never came calling. So the point is, I'm not an expert on it.
Yeah,
I can't claim to be an expert on how the pipeline works or goes. I went through it, and that was 20 years ago, and I haven't really looked back too much.
Have you been? I'm just about to ask. Have you been back to Bragg?
I've been. Yeah,
they built that place up.
Yeah, I commanded a battalion in the 82nd from 16 to 8.
Okay, yeah.
Big difference in from when you were originally there in the beginning. So let's say Spanish. Then is that the language?
Claro que sí.
So you end up going to 7th. Was that your selection?
It was. It was. Yeah, I really, I got a skiing background. Everyone thought, why don't you go 10th? Why don't you go 10th? I thought, I've skied more than 99% of the planet. I want to go do something different. I like South America. I like culture. And at the time, when I was really making this decision, this is pre 9/11. When I was in Second Ranger Battalion, I ended up staying a lot longer. But I'm like, okay, my time's coming up in about 6 months. I didn't know I was going to have another 2 combat deployments and a whole bunch of time. But I just started looking. I'm like, I think I want to go. And at the time, the really only things that were going on was 7th Group in South America, and you'd hear rumors of some gunfight or something. I don't know how much was actually going on, but it was all the CNT, counter-narcotics stuff, and transnational criminal organizations, and the mounting efforts against that seemed really enticing.
Yeah. So were they at that time frame when you got there? They were already at Florida?
No, they're at Bragg.
They were at Bragg.
Most of my 7th Group time is at Bragg.
Is that right? Mm. Okay, so you didn't transfer with them then?
I did. Okay. I did. And in fact, I got lucky. I've had some lucky things, and I can count this as well. I got accepted into the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California, to go get my Master of Science degree. And I went to do that for 2 years, and then that's when 7th Group moved. And so I didn't have to do any of that headache. U-Hauls
Monterey.
Yeah, and you go to Monterey.
Yeah, I was surfing every day. The U-Hauls were spread out across all of Florida, and I
come back with a tan.
I'm sorry, brothers. That sounds a little rough, and I'm glad to be back. So I came back, and then I commanded another company there, and also that was the Group 3 for a while.
Did you ever want to go through Lancero School?
I did, and I was actually, there was a time that I was really kind of trying to work my timing to do that. And rest his soul, Sean P. Mulholland, the junior, he died a few years ago. He was kind of one of my mentors, and he was a Lancero, and he was trying to help me. Those cookies didn't line up right, but
you guys want to explain that for the?
Yeah, maybe tell a little bit about that program, that school.
So the Lancero is one of the most respected commando-like Ranger schools in the military, and I think Ranger schools often kind of looked at as the standard across all of the different coalition of services where they have. But I think I haven't been to Lancero School, but that thing sounds like a real ball buster. I think I got a lot of respect for the guys that complete that school.
Yeah, I don't know how it is now, but I know some people that went through probably in the late 90s or early 2000s, and it was like rough. It was like what people probably explained of old basic training and boot camp during Vietnam, and then times 10.
Yeah, the stories I've heard sound rough.
Yeah,
I got it, and I do not want to go anymore now. My 52-year-old body doesn't bend all that well as it used to.
You look great for 52.
Yeah, no kidding.
He's putting all of us like,
I need to fix my shit. I had a buddy that went through Lancero. He's part of 160th now. So, but went through the 160th, all that assessment selection.
How did you get to Lancero School through this? Then?
He was with 7th Group before he tried out to go to the 160th, but this is all support. So he's part of the support. Fluent Spanish, Dominican, goes down there, passes. So
who's
I'm
the
going to
host
have to pick his brain.
What's that?
Who's the host nation for Lancero School?
Colombia.
Colombia. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Colombia is a top-notch military. They are really on it. They are very, very good.
Yeah, that is a hell of a school. Actually, I think we did an episode with somebody that did go on it. He has some really hilarious stories that he told us about. But there was also some like you just couldn't get away with some of that stuff here in the U.S. military.
That's what yeah. There's some definite blunt force trauma.
Yes. Definitely. Getting in the pit, I think, with live snakes that are poisonous. I mean, there's like some crazy stuff that goes on through that course. So while you were in 7th Group, though, you had a very interesting thing that we want to cut and get into, and that was the Operation Willing Spirit. So maybe tell us a little bit about what led to this specific mission, the story, and then what your role was in that.
So, so really, the mission kind of goes back to February of 2003, and that's when there was a plane shot down by the FARC, the terrorist organization down there. And it had some SRS folks on it working out of the embassy, and the FARC came up. They got the down plane. They shot the pilot. I think they kept one. Might be getting it kind of wrong, but I think they kept one Colombian alive, and they killed one. And then there's 3 Americans that were on that flight, and they kidnapped them, and they kidnapped them for years and years and years and years and years. I think it's a little over 5 years total time. They were repatriated in 2008. So we slowly started up a mission and kind of started to get things moving for Operation Willing Spirit, and I can talk about it now because their hostages have been repatriated and the mission is no longer classified. So what we were working to do is just try to get proof of life, and then we started trying to actively go and confirm or deny stuff, and that was actually one of my most nerve-wracking things that I ever did in the military was brief in Spanish the 2-star Colombian general and tell him how I needed to be able to take my team and go on to target, which doesn't sound like a very big deal, but for a little 30-year-old captain who can barely speak Spanish, and I'm a gringo and I'm trying to do this, and all the U.S. generals are like, oh, don't screw this up, and I was sweating, I was nervous, but we ended up getting to slightly modified the mission to where we could actually go, look, well, let's go see if they were there. Let's go see. Hey, they said they're moving them down these rivers. Let's see. Can you move? They were Green Berets. Let's go figure this out. Let's go fly out there and see if you can try out and move hostages through here. Let's confirm or deny all this crap that's out there. And so we started really getting aggressive like that. And it was a ton of fun. We were working out of the embassy during most of the weeks. And then we'd go in and we'd work with different medical ready departments and set up different areas where we could get into typically FARC controlled area and start to see, confirm or deny. And we did a lot of denying, like there's no hostages here. And but it took us those steps to kind of get there. And then ultimately, the Colombians they saved that mission. And the U.S. helped. What they did is they set up a whole, and this is all declassified now. There's a book about it. A guy, Greg Wilson, who does the best speech on it. Amazing Green Beret guy. He was the J3, and what the Colombians did is they started working different. They created a fake Doctors Without Borders kind of thing, and they were going to help the FARC move the hostages, which also included Ingrid Betancourt, a French presidential candidate, and they were going to help move them. And they needed all these different things, but it was a total fake organization. And anyway, long story short, they landed the helicopter. Hostages got on. I heard they might have roughed up some of those FARC guys, but I don't know. I cannot confirm or deny. But then they flew them to freedom. They were supposed to be going to Venezuela. This is what the FARC thought. But it's a great story. It's really cool. If you look up Greg Wilson, he does a speech on it, and it's a cool story on this excellent, successful operation.
I don't recall those guys ever getting out of there, and that's why when we started talking about it before the show, it was surprising to me because I do remember when it all went down, and I don't know why, but I think here they started painting these 3 guys of being potential, former military operatives and all this kind of stuff, if memory serves me correctly as well. So it was one of these things that like you didn't know what to believe about what these guys were and why they wanted them so badly and the whole bit. But I had no idea that the 7th Group was part of the group that got them out of there.
Yeah, well, I'll say assist.
Yeah,
and we help keeping the attention on it and helping get it was really the Colombian government that did it, but it was a wonderful. That was probably the coolest Green Beret-like mission I ever did, where we're going into the jungle, setting up little sensors, doing different things, and playing our different rules. We're like, we'd go in sterile, but we had our ID card here. We had all these weird rules we were trying to follow. I'm a gringo. I'm not fooling anybody. But
right. Yeah.
But it was a fun mission.
And when you were in SF, then you didn't get a chance to. Did you deploy over to Relief Third Group or anything like that?
Several times, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I thought so.
Several times, yeah. I got about 3.5 years of my life in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I bet you did. Where were some of the locations that you were at?
I commanded the AOB in Kalat in at Camp Bogadson, and let's see, and then I spent a lot of time in Kandahar. I was the HSC commander and the subsen director, and so I was at Camp Brown then, and then I spent a lot of time on Bagram in various different locations.
What was the time of which through your career they decided, all right, you need to do a little bit more command time, and you end up going to the 82nd?
That was so the way it works for O's is you come out on the battalion command list, and then you have a series of things you can kind of show a preference, and then there's some sort of gonculator behind some magic curtains with some big generals that make some sort of decisions, and I don't know how that process works, but after it did, it spit out that you're going to the 82nd. Well, okay, I guess I'm going to the 82nd, which was a very rude awakening because, as you know, in SOF, it's often a little different than conventional military, and we got a little bit of different ways of wording things. I didn't even own PTs, and I don't think I'd stood in formation for about 10 years, and poof, I went to the 82nd. Now I'm singing when people are holding flags all around me, and we're running up and down Ardennes, and it was an interesting experience, but met a lot of wonderful men and women that I still call friends to this day.
You were U.S. South before that, though. And
SOC South.
Yeah, SOC South. I'm sorry. You were in SOC South. SOC South, Tampa?
SOC South is South Miami. So
Miami.
The homestead.
Okay.
It's
Man, you were at all the great places.
Yeah.
I wanted to go.
Yeah. So what was that assignment line before you went to 82nd? Then
That was great. I worked, so I just come out of, I commanded A17 in 7th Group, and the one of probably my favorite job is I was the area operation base commander for all special operations in Central America. So I was the CENTAM commander, and I was out of Honduras at Sotocano Air Base, which is a joint Honduran and U.S. air base. And I'd really gotten into it. I really liked that mission. And then so I got hired by Sean Mulholland. He brought me down to, he hired me to be the REB chief, the regional engagement branch chief. So I basically worked for the general to work our initiatives in Central America, which was a ton of fun. I was traveling in and out of countries and making sure missions were set up correctly, and that was a great job.
So you were at that time frame still major?
As a major.
Okay. So when you got lieutenant colonels, when you had to go to the 82nd?
Yeah, I went to Joint Forces Staff College in Norfolk, Virginia, and that's when I came out on the battalion command list. And then about I want to say maybe 5 weeks later, the actual pinpoint came. And I'd asked to go back to Special Forces, like most guys would, but then my second choice was operational. I just wanted to stay in the fight, and I always laughed because when I got to the 82nd and started filling out all sorts of FRG rosters and various things for the general, I was not feeling very operational.
AF. You said so. It was the Joint Forces Staff College. My dad went to the Armed Forces Staff College, which is the same, but that was back in the 90s. I actually went to middle school, so you were at the same. You dealt with not dealt with, but you learned with different foreign security force or foreign nations.
Well, not so much foreign. It really was valuable to look at hey, what is a carrier group capable of? Right, Army guy, I don't know.
Yeah,
I know a little bit about Air Force because we get on those planes, but I don't know what they do. How do you use tactical submarines? How do you really look at you doing a big NEO operation where you need to not just special ops, but you're going to really evacuate a country, and they have to have these plans. And I was very naive to it, but it kind of Joint Forces Staff College, they really went into that. How did these big systems work?
Nice.
How can you go be a joint officer and talk in all these different ways that are really complex military operations?
Nice.
Did they embrace you in a lot through that process?
It was, it's all officers from all different services.
Yeah, okay.
There's not a lot of Green Berets, but there's some that were there. I don't think I was the only one.
Yeah. No, that would be incredible. If you had to go through a program, that would be the program to go into. We can understand your brothers and sisters and what the challenges that they're going through, and how they, not only that, but they learn from you as well.
Absolutely. It was a great course. It really was.
Yeah. It's pretty cool for the families too. Not to take away from what you learned. I mean, we got to meet inter-service, met everybody. The kids went to school together. That's where I learned how to speak German, because they had a German Army officer there. He brought his family, and we stayed right there on I don't know if it's in the same area, but there was a schoolhouse and a kind of like a small base, cantonment area
stuff.
Yeah,
there's lots of Navy.
Yeah, lots of Navy.
So what was something that really surprised you that you learned at that?
really is how the Navy works.
Just the Navy.
The Navy. I've just been very unfamiliar with Navy educational systems and other things. Just because as an Army officer, I just wasn't around it very much.
Yeah.
I'd bounce into a SEAL here and there, but didn't really know a lot about Navy.
Okay.
Well, the officer rank and stuff is already hard enough.
I think I might have been a lieutenant colonel when I finally memorized all the Navy ranks.
Yeah.
I was a little slow in that department.
A captain's not a captain, it's a colonel. But yeah. That whole thing, it took me, my dad was in the Navy, but it took me so long to understand that I appreciated more of the Marine Corps and the Army, and they had a lot of similarities, and then the Air Force as well. So the Navy had to be something different. I love you, Navy guys, but no arm there. At any rate, you end up going back to SOC South.
Well, I just it was a TDY and return to school. It was it was I think it was only about like 4 months or so. But so I went back, and then I had to out process and went to the 82nd.
Okay, so after the 82nd, what ended up happening?
I went, well, if you're a Special Forces officer and you did not command in the Special Forces Regiment, you're not coming back unless you get really lucky as a deputy commander or something. So I kind of just thought, the writing's on the wall. I'm going to have to be serving a Colonel coffee somewhere, and so I think I'm going to punch my ticket. And so I asked SOC South, can I come back? I liked it there, and it was fun. And so I came back as the J7 for in charge of military readiness exercises and training from the military side of that, and that was for all Central and South America, which was a fantastic job.
Yeah, tell us a bit about that. What does that actually entail?
So it's setting up a lot of training exercises. A big one is Forces Commando, which is like a Commando Olympics that we run every year, or SOC South runs. It's Southcom runs it, but they charge the 1-star SOC South Command to do it. So Southcom being the 4-star Geographical Combatant Commander. But that was fun. I just got to set up that, as a lieutenant colonel, I got to run through shoot houses. I got to try out sniper rifles. I got to go jump in the ocean and swim with Zodiacs, and that was fun to get back kind of after it again, and kind of as my swan song trip. I enjoyed that assignment. And then I had dropped my retirement packet in February of 2000. And then here I am in charge of training and exercises. And then in March of 2000, COVID, poof. And then the military said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to cancel all training exercises. And my job just went poof. And so I'm retiring, got a nice salary, and don't have work to go to.
You said 2000. You meant 2020?
Yeah.
I was like, he pulled a Benjamin Button.
Yeah, he did.
No. That's 2010.
I was like, oh, yes.
Thanks for that.
I'm going crazy.
Attention to detail, Sergeant Major.
So wow, that must have been good and bad, I guess, in a lot of ways, because when you don't really have a mission or an objective, it kind of sucks.
I didn't. It worked out well for me, because part of the problem was I had told my general, like, hey, I'll work, I'll row, but I'll give you a good solid year plus, and I'd like that on the return end too, and my wife and I had decided to move to Cocoa Beach, Florida, which I'll touch on, but at the time we were starting to do things with real estate, and we're starting to do stuff, and I couldn't be there. And we bought our house in summer of 2019, but I was commuting on the weekends from staying with a buddy down in Homestead, and I was coming back, and I couldn't really be there to help out with different things we were going on. But then when they cut off all the funds for training, and I told the general, look, I'll do this, but someone else is going to have to own it. And my recommendation is you put somebody else in who could drive these exercises that are going to happen over the next several years, that can see it through, because I'll work, but I'm not going to own it. And so he did. He brought in a SEAL, and I high-fived, and then I started my retirement stuff. And the reason why we were actually in Cocoa Beach, and why I wanted to get there, is when I always liked real estate, and I liked reading the BRAC, the Bracing, Alignment, and Closing Commission that Congress does every 10 years, and you can really kind of see what real estate is doing in any given market by whatever demographic you're looking at. You can look at E3s through the years, and E7 on 05 and 08 and 08 or whatever, and you can see what housing values are increasing or decreasing. And I was looking at the 2020 BRAC. And they were talking about all the combined stuff on the Florida Space Coast with Blue Origin, New Horizons, SpaceX, L3 Harris, and all this federal money and effort was going into the Space Coast. And just like everywhere in the United States, 2008, they got hit hard. Then they got hit hard even harder in 2011 when the shuttle program went away. So I was sitting there looking like, I think I'm going to retire and I'm going to move there. I'm going to start buying property now. And I didn't know one person, but that's what we did. And it was fun and it worked.
Wow.
That was smart.
I mean, I was going to ask you, like, how difficult was the transition right around that time frame with COVID, and everybody was in this state of flux, and then they were also in a state of flux trying to come back to work and find their way and everything afterwards. Here, you're making the transition, but you've obviously laid it out in such a way with the business model that you're like, I'm going to go attack this. This is a prime market and a prime opportunity.
And that's what I did. And, it was a gamble because we didn't know what was going to happen with COVID, but I just doubled down. Home Depot was open, and I just threw all my life savings in. I was living in places I was working on. And I was swinging a hammer, and I can't do anything but work on these properties. So we got to work, and over about a 3-year period, I did about 20 transactions, which for me, that's a big deal.
Yeah, but that's huge.
And he pulled the Walt Disney. Went in there and bought property in Florida when nobody was paying attention.
Well, Cocoa Beach worked. That 2020 brag. It was like I just saw it. I think this is going to be big, and it was. Wow. And now it's kind of tapered off, which is why I pivoted now into commercial. But
yeah,
be prepared for the crisis, because when the crisis comes, you can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of like those guys that are day traders and watching the market, and trying to figure out who's going to do what and how to do it right and the whole thing. And you were doing that with real estate. Why'd you end up going into the commercial route? You figured that it's more of a long haul, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. Well, yes, I learned that the hard way.
Yeah,
it definitely takes a lot longer. You got to throw a lot of money into something before you ever see a dime back. But I started. We could see the trends. The market was shifting with the residential, and I've been doing residential, and I've been doing Airbnbs. And I'll say part of it was I didn't really like running Airbnbs. It wasn't a lot of work, but it was work that was never on my terms. I didn't get to decide when the toilet exploded, and it wasn't. And I also just kind of felt I was doing beachfront condos primarily, but there's a real negative side that I didn't get about Airbnbs, and you start to price good locals out of an area. And I didn't really think, I thought, hey, I'm going to come into an area, I'm going to invest my own money, I'm going to try to rebuild real estate, I'm going to try to be part of a community. So I had these values that I thought were good and just. But then when I start to see, service industry folks that are awesome people, and they're getting priced out of an area and they can't afford to be there, and it kind of screws up a lot to do with the economy. And I kind of didn't like it. It was kind of a little dirty money in a way, in my mind. And, I didn't solve the problem in any way. The problem's still there. I just got out of it myself and don't do rentals anymore. But
I've seen that a lot within Europe and some of the locations I've gone to, where the local people, they want their young children and everything else to be able to grow up in the community. But the problem is people are coming in and buying up the land when they do get sold, and they turn them into Airbnb. So there's no place to live. And then it also drives the rate in the market and everything up. And so now all of a sudden you got an area that young people aren't there. The people of the age, is moving along. And so it's a service area as well, because it's a resort, and eventually it's not going to be there.
Yeah. I kind of saw that, and I didn't fix anything by getting out. I just didn't want to be part of that problem anymore.
Yeah. So you got into commercial. You're still in commercial.
I did. Yeah. It was actually kind of fun. So I still had several Airbnbs, and we were kind of looking at modifying some stuff. I could see that the real estate market was not as good for residential anymore, and it's not bad. It's just not as good as it was right after all that industry started flowing into the Space Coast. But I was actually. We found a great deal on a property, and I was looking at it was right on the beach, or right near the beach, and we're going to do some like axe throwing and put a selfie museum, and we're going to do some stuff with it. And then I kind of just treated it like a military operation, and without a sexy infill or exfil, I parked my car in a local parking lot and walked right over to the property and started doing IPB, intelligence preparation of the battlefield, and mission analysis, and looking at the problem. And what I saw was, particularly in Cocoa Beach, there's not a lot of showers anywhere, but it's a beach town, and if Nana wants to poop, she's got to buy a cheeseburger somewhere, and we're right in the main downtown access point to the beach. We're on First Street North, and I'm watching these. I'm drinking my coffee, And I'm watching these moms with screaming kids, using wet wipes to get the sand off their feet. And they have nowhere to go, and the kids streaming, and Nana's doing the pee-pee dance, and I'm like, God, we gotta fix this. And so I got an indoor arcade with AC to help you rinse off, or I got an outdoor heated pool too, and 4 outdoor showers, 3 indoor showers, and I just kind of watched, and I created a solution for what the problems that I was seeing, and that took a long, then we thought, okay, how long do you think this is going to take? So we got the financing all worked out. We'll be done in 6 months. That was 2 years ago. And we just had our grand opening about 2 months ago, but and we had a soft opening kind of early up in January, but getting everything going, getting the commercial pool. We're officially a restaurant now, but my microwave and hot dog rollers don't too well. But we're selling Mom what she wants. She can get her kid. Nana can go poop. We got nice indoor bathrooms, and we just did a pool party this last weekend, and it's kind of been fun to toy with.
Where somebody sees a problem, you see an opportunity.
Yeah, it's been great, and I like the property. I like owning it. I like being a local business owner, and I like so if you're ever in Cocoa Beach, Florida, Cosmic Tiki is the name.
If you ever got to poop, and
and the way it works is it's an all day. You buy a wristband, and you can come and go as you want.
Oh,
and so you
smart.
can. So it's like beach. It's like beach support.
Yeah.
And you can go to, hey, if it's a little hot, come play video games. We got pinball and all that stuff. If you want to jump off and swim off in the pool, and the parents like it, because what a lot of folks don't think about is when they take their families to the beach. Now they get them there. Now there's rip current and waves, and parents are like, trying to make sure their kids don't float off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice for the parents too, because you can come have a beer or a glass of wine, and you can just chill out. And your kid can jump on, and the pool's only 4 feet deep. It's family friendly.
You've got to go to, like, just having come back from Italy, you've got to go over there to try to fix the whole bathroom problem over there. Because you go around like Florence or Rome or whatever, you've got to go buy something, and you got to pray that the place you're buying it actually has a bathroom, because if it doesn't, it doesn't matter any. So first what you do is you walk in the store if you've got to use a bathroom, because there's not very many public ones, and you try to find a place with the bathroom. Then you decide, all right, I'm going to buy this product. Meanwhile, Kyle, you've got to go now take a leak. Go ahead and take a leak, because I'm buying this. And it's a whole strategy. And I thought the same thing. I thought there's got to be an opportunity here, some way to try to figure out, maybe it's banned. So we have restrooms that are staged all over the city and everything. And so what you do is you buy a ban, and you can use the restrooms for that day.
Yeah, and hopefully not.
We need to get together,
because Italy's a little miserable in the summer.
It really is. We need to actually get together after this and figure out a plan of action.
Mobile AC is
So we're kind of a beach bum now. We're in Cocoa Beach, but you also mentioned something that seems the complete opposite of being a beach bum that you have going on in Nevada as well.
Yeah. So when my grandfather came back from World War II, he was a veterinary officer in the Army, and he worked a lot with different kinds of canine stuff. And he came back, and his family lived in Kansas, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to move my family. I heard there's a veterinary opportunity out in Reno, Nevada. And so he moved out to Reno and started the first veterinary hospital in Reno, Key Animal Hospital. And then he started cattle ranching. And so he's kind of he built that up. He left us just 11 years ago. But he was riding horses up into his late 90s. He was an amazing man, and he actually, I would work out there in the summers and in the when I was growing up, and I'd spend a lot of time out there, and he paid me as a hand. And I remember one day I was tinkering with college, and I hadn't yet gone into the National Guard, but this time was coming very quickly, and because I was kind of wondering what I wanted to do, and he says, "What are you gonna do?" I said, "Well, Bampa, I think I just want to come out here and work on the ranch." And he fired me on the spot.
Your own good.
He said, "You'll always be welcome here. You come back anytime, but you're never going to get another dollar out of this ranch. You go figure out how to make money somewhere else so that you can enjoy it when it's working, and you can survive the multi-year droughts and make sure that you can keep the business alive." And I don't know if that's the best advice for all cattle ranchers, but that's the one that my dad's followed. He was an attorney and found other ways to fund it when it needed. Because sometimes you get a 4-year drought, you might have a real successful cattle operation, but 4-year drought's hard to make things stay in the black.
Yeah, and water's a precious commodity out that way anyway. So
yeah, so I've been now I've been retired almost a little over 4.5 years, and I'm a little wet behind the ears on the cattle ranching things, but I'm involved in the business and I love doing it. I'm heading out there tomorrow, and just built a house out there, and so spend a lot more time trying to figure out how to do this cattle operation. We got a great team that's been with us decades, and we have some great salt of the earth folks that are the real expert cowboys.
I was going to say, you're like the real Yellowstone.
yeah,
Well, I don't know. We don't get in gunfights with Indians.
how many dead people run your ranch?
Right.
Yeah. Don't lie.
Do you have a place out back or someplace that you stow the bodies? Or?
At the train station.
Yeah, the train station.
Hey, there's some classified things that are beyond the military.
What's the name of the ranch?
It's we sell under Rabbit Creek Ranch, and Key Ranches is kind of owns the over thing. There's some other little ranches too. We have the Anchor S Ranch and Tucker and some little other property. It's not as sexy as Yellowstone, where it's all just in one place. Because like, hey, we need to expand the operation. Well, you know what's not available normally? The next door property.
Yeah.
So you got to get a property over here that does this. You got to get a property over there that does that, and you got to kind of work them all together. And
Yeah.
so it's not as necessarily, you don't just walk onto the big print open range, but some of it's pretty open. But
Do you sell meat direct?
you know, that I'm glad you asked that, because the answer is no. We're a cow-calf operation, sells a 30-day weaned steer or heifer that gets in a semi-truck and goes to a stalker on pasture for the next 10 months or so. But what the problem is we sell a premium, a higher end cut of potential. I mean, we sell to the highest bidder. So if Carnival Cruise Line wants to buy them and ship them around the world, I think that's a dumb idea, but they could do it. And I don't dictate what happens with the cattle after they're sold. Yeah, but from there, what we're often left after all the semis leave, we're left with about a few dozen or so leftover high quality animals that now we have to sell at regular market prices. And I want to build the capacity to go farm to table. But one of the things I promised my ranch manager is I might have a lot of crazy ideas. I'm not going to throw one at you that I want you to execute unless it comes with help. Because who's taking care of these guys? How do you get this? How are you finishing it? Where's the land? And it's
a totally different business plan.
Yeah, so I gotta kind of figure out how that's gonna work. But we got the business on paper now. It's Battleborn. Nevada's slogan is Battleborn, so it's Battleborn beef, and I'm hoping that within the next 12 months or something, we'll start getting some product out.
Is most of the time the cattle like under 2 years or around 2 years old when you're selling them? Isn't that
Ours are not even a year old.
Wow.
We're selling just.
Well, that's because they do stay 10 months.
Yeah, the operation for whatever it is to really separate it. You get the cow calves, so we buy the bulls, we breed them, and then we wean the steers and heifers, and then we take a quick break, and then we start all over again. And that whole cycle runs about 12 years. And then they go to a stalker for about 10 months, where they're just on a pasture. There's probably a whole bunch of problems that they could tell you about it, and from my perspective, they're on a pasture. And then they'll go to the feedlot for about 6 weeks or so and get fat, and then they'll go to a packing plant, which is sometimes the same or sometimes in a different location, might even be a different state.
Right. Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska. Yep. Very much familiar with those things. We were talking about that offline. So you and your wife ended up writing a book here.
Yeah.
And it's called, let me just show this to those that are looking, it's called The Cow is How.
Yeah.
Tell us about this book.
Yeah, available on Amazon. So this really kind of came about. I've always been a little bit of a fitness and nutrition geek, and when I went to the Naval Postgraduate School, I wrote my thesis on human performance and how do you, as in special operation organization, how do you optimize the money and taking care of operators and kind of that physical fitness. And so I've always just kind of liked that stuff. And then in particular, I kind of got into, I guess about almost 5 years ago, I've been hearing about carnivore and keto and carnivore. And I thought, that's pretty interesting. And I didn't really care too much about it. I like good nutrition and healthy food. But then I got COVID, and I've been been reading about this. And by the way, I've had pimples worse than COVID. But anyway, I got it. and at the time we were still doing all the isolation, and so I locked myself in a room. And I'm reading about this carnivore thing. I'm gonna just put my money where my mouth is. I'm gonna do it. And I did it. And for me, telling someone what they should eat is kind of like telling them what God they should follow. So I'm not really into preaching about it, but I got really into doing the keto carnivore thing, and in about 5 years now, and I've got a lot of great results out of it, and I really personally like it for my mind, for my body.
Do you use it more as a cleanse, or is it an all the time?
All the time. I have a pretty simple rule which allows for a lot of flexibility. I 95% of what I put in my body is an animal product or water, and if I'm on vacation, I lower that to 90. and beer has water, so that that means I can still have beer with buddies. It means French fries in my mind have zero nutritional value, but it's my total cheat food. I love French fries.
Yeah. So do you cheat like one day a week or something?
Yeah, I'll have like French fries normally just once a week.
Yeah,
and it works for me.
So what does a normal meal look like for you?
I ate a lot of beef.
Yeah, obviously.
I ate a lot.
I would hope so.
I ate a lot. And I also experiment with fasting a lot too. I fasted today until probably about just a couple hours ago, and I kind of just mix it up. If you look at from my perspective, you look at a lot of ancestral nutrition ideas, it certainly wasn't wake up and have eggs and bacon and then a bunch of foot bowls of fruit.
No, this is not.
You were probably waking up and running around looking for food. And so I've been toying with my body, and when I do eat food, and I kind of notice some little tweaks, and I think it's kind of fun to just use myself as a canvas and experiment with the nutrition.
Yeah, we do a lot of that.
Yeah, right. What you don't understand is every private and the regular Army's doing that. They're just hungover while they're doing it. They're doing fasted workouts every morning at 6:30.
Sometimes I do that too.
Yeah. But is it are you supplementing with salt or anything as well? Obviously,
when you talk to folks like this, you will increase your salt.
Yeah.
You kind of have to, and you feel it. You want additional salts. And I always every night I call it my cocktail. I put collagen and a sugar-free rehydration salt.
Okay.
And it goes next to my bed. And if I did have too much whiskey, that normally helps me feel a little better in the morning.
Yeah.
Whiskey's also mostly water.
Well, the question is, when we get done with this whole thing, we're going to take a picture. So if we all end up looking like you because we start following your diet program, this will be great. Maybe you need to write a book about that, because holy crap, at 52, you look amazing.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. But so this story kind of came about, really, my wife and I jumped into this keto carnivore thing, and we're one of those weirdos. And we kind of started going to some seminars and starting to meet people. I'm like, this was kind of neat. And then her dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of correlative evidence that shows that Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, a lot of these things are linked. They're almost like it's almost like a different type of diabetes. It's kind of,
I've heard of it called type 3 diabetes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of evidence out there, and it seems to be growing. And also you look at a lot of ancestral type diets that existed in cultures across the world. You didn't have these modern Western illnesses. And so I'm not going to tell somebody what's right or what's wrong with everything, but I dove into it, and I've been kind of loving it and finding that it works for me. And maybe my left arm will fall off in 2 months for eating too much beef, but for now it seems to be working
nice.
Well. And when we were driving across the country and just doing this big research project, and now, by the way, we got her dad to cure his diabetes. His diabetes is reversed, but he's still got Parkinson's, and it's progressive. But that was really the impotence to really like we just care, and trying to get my mom off various things.
Yeah.
And other people don't take all these meds, and they're in the big pharma makes pitches to their investors that their stocks are going to go up because they're going to have this many more people on the meds that they're selling.
Yeah.
I don't think it's always in their.
If we can get everybody on a statin, then they'll always need a statin.
Yeah,
that type of thing.
Well,
I'm totally in statins.
Well, yeah, we won't go down that path because I can understand that.
Brain is 75% cholesterol, and you're blocking cholesterol.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You need the cholesterol.
And what they do, they lowered the acceptable rate of cholesterol for your blood panel by 200 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, going to the health aspect of it. Is there any concern, or have you felt anything about higher blood pressure or any of that nature because you're on the meats?
I haven't, and you can do different types of tests to look at how well your blood is flowing, and because they'll say, oh, you're going to have high cholesterol. Well, I have borderline high LDL and HDL, but they're matching, so they cancel each other out. And if you can get tests where they just say, oh, your cholesterol's high. Well, okay, ask for a platelet test. So see how your blood is really working. And if there's no signs of blockage, guess what? You're not gonna die of heart disease.
Right. Right.
which is really what they're trying to cure, which is no longer even one of the leading causes of death. It's one of the leading, but it's not like it once was.
Right. And they talk about with that test that you just described, I think that's the one where it's going to take like 10 years before you even see like 2% or a 3%. I mean, naturally it doesn't jump that high in terms of percentages and stuff. So if your number's really low, then you don't have to worry about it as much yet. So I think, those of us, military, a lot of times we need to get the full blood work anyway in order for us to understand what's going on with our body. Have you ever had that done?
I'm kind of a geek. I go donate blood, and I look at where I'm at. What's interesting though is, now about almost 5 years into being primarily keto carnivore, my levels went up a lot in cholesterol, but now they're balancing. My body is balancing. It's just kind of interesting thing. I don't wear sunscreen anymore. I don't need it. And my hair is less gray than it was 5 years ago. It's still got some gray. It's just strange. And if you talk to a lot of people that do the carnivore thing, and I don't want to sound like some hocus pocus wizard, but if you get in, they estimate there's over 20 million people now in the United States that identify as keto carnivore, which is a huge number. And if you get into some of the forums and stuff, and I'll get off my soapbox.
No, this is good.
But there's some really neat things. Like my recovery time from physical fitness is way down since I've been doing that.
So your father-in-law, you said, cured diabetes. He was type 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was lifestyle diabetes, essentially. So
yeah, he's a snacker and all the carbs and all the stuff.
I think something that a lot of the diets, now I won't call it a fad because a lot of them work, right? Or the absence of sugar. So how is that like you keep sugar down?
I'm pretty
sugar-free?
I'm fortunate that I've never really had a big sweet tooth.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't as hard for me as I think it would be for a lot of people. I do like carbs and in wheat, I'm almost 100% wheat free, and I've been wheat free for almost 4 years, which was kind of challenging at first. 'Cause I like pizza.
Yeah.
But I found in particular with wheat, and particularly non-perennial wheat, a lot of the stuff that you get in the store, it really, unless I really want to spend a lot of time with porcelain, I just can't touch it.
So when he and I served together, I was huge physical fitness. That was about 120 pounds ago. And I did a lot of CrossFit, and I did a lot of the intermittent fasting. But that was the big one, was I cut sugar and I pulled bread out of my diet.
Yeah.
And I felt absolutely amazing.
Yeah. We did the whole 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just amazing. Drink lots of water.
Inflammation went way down.
Our cheat meal was a hamburger.
Yeah.
You could eat a hamburger once or twice a week, and it wasn't really that big of a deal. But we'd cut the sugar, cut the alcohol. I quit drinking. Like all this stuff just started adding up. Unfortunately, get medically retired, and I love food. So, no, I find it interesting. I like it.
I think it's neat. And does it work for everybody? Probably not. Works for me.
It comes down to discipline, though, right?
Yeah.
I think anything can work if you follow it, and it doesn't have to be 100%. What do you think about 90%?
You talked about, right?
I like 90. I always kind of looked at I kind of always thought of myself as like, I'm like a Mach 1 Mustang. I got a little rust under here. I go kind of fast. I turn ahead, but I'm no Lamborghini, so I don't need to put the 120 octane in. Just put the 87 in there and keep the throttle down. Keep it going.
There was a guy that
sexy.
wrote a book. It was called, I think it was Body for Life or something like that years ago. This is like in the 90s. And I actually loved that program that he had, because it was like 6 days of working out, but then you give your body 1 day where you can actually have cheat meals and you can not work out. And so because of that, it was amazing how you felt like getting back into the gym the next day, because you're already in like a program where you felt like you had that moment of like a break. And that 1 day was plenty enough to relax. Now I got to get back into it because I love my fitness type of thing. And I think that we don't understand, like also what you were talking about earlier about how these fabs and programs are out there. And you've got to find one that's right for you that goes along with that. But a lot of the companies, I think it's only a few companies actually that own not only the food industry, also own the pharma. And they also own the television stations. And so they can feed you the news and the information. They can also make sure that what they're feeding you makes you sick, so that they can then provide you the medication to get you better. Quotes.
A lot of that is in here. We have over 200 references in here. And, there's just, as a small anecdote to that, it's the exact same attorneys or firms, the exact same firms that were telling all of us that the smoking does not cause cancer. with all that stuff, remember 20 years ago, whatever it was, it's the same firms are representing Big Pharma and Big Sugar.
Yeah.
Same guys.
Well, we all knew that vaping was going to give popcorn lungs, and here now it's starting to come out. But it was also a shift. Let's do the vaping part of it. That's a safer option and stuff. If you're going to smoke, this is the better option. Now all of a sudden it's starting to come out. Everybody knew that it was going to give you microwave popcorn lungs, and so I feel like what can people get out of the book? Maybe is better.
I think a lot of it is understanding our food system. You mentioned there's 4 big food companies that control about 85% of our animal products, and really it gives you a lot of references. If you're curious about how our pharma might be influencing you beyond of what the mainstream media is promoting, how our food is being run, and how healthy that may or may not be, and then looking at what are some options for getting healthy out there and through different types of dietary ways, and the data's there. It's a really good data book if you want to, hey, I'm going to go back to that cocktail party and tell them about that point, because it's all referenced.
Great. The cow is how.
The cow is how.
Yeah. All right. I also now want to go into your transition, because we talked a little bit about it with the commercial real estate and residential at the very beginning that you had to Airbnbs. We were talking offline about a lot of times guys get off, or people get off active duty, and they don't realize the importance of that transition. And you were talking about how they don't apply the 5 Ws.
Yeah, that's right. I think
I'm sorry. I went to this problem solving thing with 5 Ys, but it's 5 something. In this case, it's 5 Ws.
I think all of us, anyone that served in the military, you get excellent organizational, logistics, administrative skills through whatever your job was in the military, and they work very, very well when you apply them to the basics. And I see so often people just forget it, because what you need, a good mission statement is the 5 Ws: who, what, when, where, and why. And so many guys get out and they say, I want to do whatever this job. I'm going to be an author. I'm going to be a water bottle salesman, whatever it is. And I also want to be near my sick mom over here, or I need to wait till my kids are out of high school. Like, well, you just screwed up the where and the when. You can't get the target with the HVT in it unless you're nailing all 5 Ws. You may do an excellent raid on an awesome house, and it might even be the right house, but if you screw up the when, you didn't get them. You gotta define. You gotta have that mission statement correct, or it doesn't work. But they teach us all that, and guys get out of the military, or girls, and they seem to want to forget that and come up with these random life priorities. I want to do this, okay, and that. What do you want to do? You're telling me you want to be a plumber, and you're telling me also that you're gonna go be near your sick aunt. What do you want to do? Does she need plumbing?
Well, in that case,
and that's fine. And if you want to take care of a family member, or you want to be there for your kids, that's fine. But make that your mission statement,
right?
And make that. Don't get all these hot. And I watch a lot of guys do it, from very high-ranking officers to someone who did their 4 years and wants to go.
Next thing you know, they got a T-shirt company.
So we had a discussion about that, where when people transition, and I did it, we distance ourselves from the military.
Yeah.
I mean, to include, what we've learned, the planning, you kind of compartmentalize it, because, maybe you had a bad 5 minutes when you left. You've kind of turned it into, the woe's me story, and you let that drag on forever. And you didn't do that. I mean, your transition, you were thinking about what you were going to do when you left the military, but you were doing it with a military mindset. Mm-hmm. And then when you left, you kept the military mindset. You didn't compartmentalize that. And I think that just shows how you were successful. I could have taken that advice, when I got out. I planned before I left. We made sure we got everything set up. We did the what, where, and why. I think we forgot about the who, and the who was us. Yeah. Like, what do we really want?
Yeah.
And I think we were settling for something.
Most people do, though, when they get off.
Yeah.
Most people are super.
They're looking for the money.
Legs.
Whoever's going to come to me and offer me money at this moment, because I'm feeling very desperate.
That's
I don't
vulnerable, that I'm losing this sense of security.
Yeah.
Right. So somebody comes up and says, hey, I can offer you a job tomorrow doing X, and these guys end up jumping into it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a plan when they got out. And I know that a lot of people don't want to talk about transition. It's so funny, because people who've been out of the military for a year or two come up to me and they'll go, Robert, why don't you guys talk more about transition? Because nobody wants to talk about it when they're on active duty. Nobody gives a damn thing, because they think they have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Then they get out and they realize their plan wasn't really a good plan. To your
Well, I
point.
said no plan survives initial contact.
Yeah, which is true. And I really think that's 100% correct. And I just kept my focus really. I wasn't wearing a uniform anymore. I wasn't standing in formation. I was still getting PT in, but it was on my terms, and I probably didn't shave most of the time.
Well, what I also like too is that you were very observant, because you were willing to pivot at the right opportunity, but by still applying the same thing you learned within the military. You're observing the battlefield and you're trying to decide what move you're going to make next. And in your case, you were looking at the grandma's not being able to find a place to pee. So,
He said poop.
Whatever.
Yeah, sorry.
So I mean, I think you were once again applying the same type of principles. What you learn, what we know, and too often individuals come off active duty and they don't realize those skill sets do apply out here in the private sector.
They work wonderfully. And there's some frustration points, like when in the military, hey, I need you to do this by this day. And it happens. In the civilian sectors, sorry, I'm late. Nothing you can do unless you get a bunch of lawyers involved. But that's a frustrating thing. What I'd add to that also, Robert, is that I've seen a lot of successful transitions and successful applications in the military is have a hobby, have something beyond being in the military. And it humanizes you with your troops when you're in the military. It gives you something to look forward to when you're in the military and when you're out. And that could be anything. It could be reading the book. It could be running up and down hills, but have something.
Yeah.
And find that. Or you're just going to be sitting on a couch doing something unproductive.
It's your focal point, what centers you whenever you're in that chaos, right? And I think you bring up a good point. Tactical patience, right? Tactical patience. Everything, we live in this fast food nation right now, which kind of ties into this, where we want everything right here, right now. But you're always going to give something up to get it expeditiously. And with tactical patience, I'm telling you, the good stuff, that 90% will happen. Are you willing to forego 50% of what you really want so you can get it 50% faster?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Never trade what you want most for what you want at the moment.
Ooh, that's a good statement. Where'd you get that one, Ray?
I didn't.
Thanks for being
I
here.
heard it. I've been somewhere along the line.
I would own that.
Yeah.
That's the next book name. So what's next for you? So you're saying you're going to start building maybe the food part?
Yeah, I'm going to try to get that going. I want to do some farm to table stuff, and I think that'll be fun. And I'm working with our ranch manager on trying to create that. My dad's a little skeptical. He's he's very old fashioned. So I'm kind of doing that a little on my own and seeing what I can go with that. Getting Cosmic Tiki up and running is a big thing in Florida business, which is it's fun. And right now we got pizza and hot dogs and ice cream, and we're gonna kind of try to move that along a little further. Eventually get a full liquor license.
I got your slogan. A comfortable place to poop.
At least that's what we sell.
That's what we're saying.
We sell poopable.
Yeah, I never would have attacked that problem. But it makes complete sense. I mean, all the beaches you go to, there's a few, but then even like the public restrooms, right? You don't want to go in those.
No,
there's horror stories behind those things.
My first idea was I wanted bikinis on the beach throwing axes. I'm like, that'd be cool. Axe throwing's a new thing.
Not with alcohol.
That's where I was going initially, but then I was looking at the problem set, and I didn't see a lot of bikinis looking for an axe to throw. So I think
they were looking for bathrooms.
They were looking for bathrooms and somewhere to put their screaming kid.
Yeah. And when you mentioned the farm to table, have you thought about doing so many people, including myself, with the Mediterranean type diets and stuff that I end up going on that, where you can order food from individuals.
I was going to ask that.
So have you thought about, so
very much, looking at selling quarter cows and that's
no, like more like a meal, like
a meal.
Like, you mentioned you're on this type of diet. If you wanted to offer that as an opportunity, hey, you want to go on this is what you'll get, as meal plan opportunities and stuff. And so what we do is we get a program where it all comes together and we've got to make it. We get the recipe, we get the cooking instructions and everything. We get the chance to make it. We feel good. We get the little spices that come with, and then
I need the next step. I need meal ready to go, not meal ready to eat. Now, I was going to ask you that, if that because I don't want to name the companies because we're not sponsored by them.
Yeah.
I am very interested in doing that. In fact, what I'd really like to do is I want freezer-sized boxes that can easily go. However, when you look at doing, in particular, animals, livestock, the easiest way to do it, or a effective way to do it, is you sell parts of the animal. You sell a quarter of the animal, because the problem is you can't process it without a USDA inspector oversight. But if you sell them, I'm going to sell each of you a quarter of this animal. Then, and I recommend, now that you own this quarter of this animal, I'm going to go get it processed here and packaged here. And okay. That's kind of how you circumvent the USDA requirement, which is hard. In fact, there isn't even a place in Nevada where I can go to a USDA packing plant.
Huh.
There's feedlots, but no packing.
No, and that's
not that you could sell for USDA.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
And it makes the price go like this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And they maintain a lot of the control and everything else and oversight. And this is probably more historical, passed down, and they don't want to give up that revenue and that money. Much like when you think about beer distribution or alcohol distribution, you always have to have a distributor. You could have a brewery right down the road that can't actually distribute their own beer unless you buy it within their property. But if you go outside their property and stuff, it has to be a distributor that brings it to you.
Yeah, all these silly laws. Every time I learn about them, they'd make less sense. But
yeah, I mean, Tamu got around that red tape.
In Georgia, you can't buy alcohol on a Sunday until after 12:30,
because that's important.
Well,
I mean, that thing comes out of a package store.
Yeah.
And when I went to Italy, I was completely surprised going to the grocery store and seeing the liquor on the shelves.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it blew my mind.
Yeah, but that's in some of the states and everything. Costco even has that in some places. We don't have it here in Georgia.
No, I don't go too far from the South.
Yeah.
And Nevada's got, I think our slogan at ROTC was Nevada, where everything's legal. So we got prostitution, we got all the, we got liquor in the gas stations.
But you can't process your own meat.
No, can't do that. Can't do that. That's not legal. That's illegal.
Man, Kevin, I really appreciate you coming here, man, all this way. I hope people go out. We'll actually put that book on our Amazon page so that people can go and buy it directly now that I know it's on Amazon, and they can make sure they can find it rather easily. I want to actually read your book because I want to learn a lot more about this program. My daughter got on that diet, but they only did it to lose weight for a period of time and then got off of it. The fact that you've been on it so long is kind of fascinating to me, and I hope to talk to more about that. I
like it. Well, here you go.
Nice.
We got to get you to autograph stuff too. But very much appreciate you coming on, man, talking about your journey.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
Thanks for that.